Welcome to another episode of Vicarious Insights, Learn With Me, the podcast where we delve into the diverse world of disability services, bringing you insights from professionals, parents, and individuals with lived experience. I'm Jace, your host, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Our guest today is Vickie from Unify Disability Services. Unify is more than just a provider of allied health, specialist behaviour support, and comprehensive disability services. They are a team passionately dedicated to empowering individuals with disabilities to lead fulfilling, independent lives. At Unify, the ethos is built on the foundation of compassion, respect, and an unwavering commitment to delivering personalised care that meets the unique needs of each person they serve. Unify offers a wide range of services designed to support the holistic development and well-being of their clients, from allied health services to specialist behaviour support and tailored disability services. Unify is committed to enhancing the quality of life for individuals with disabilities. Their approach is centred on collaboration and empowerment, ensuring that clients and their families are actively involved in the planning and delivery of care. Today, Vickie will share with us the incredible initiatives Unify is spearheading, the challenges and triumphs of working in the disability sector, and her personal journey and insights. Whether you're a professional in the field, a family member, or someone looking to learn more about disability services, this episode is packed with valuable information and inspiration. Without further ado, let's welcome Vickie to the show. Vickie, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Jace. It's a pleasure.
We'll get straight into it. Bringing out the big guns, what inspired you to start working in the disability support sector?
It's actually funny that you say what inspired me, because I came across disability sector by accident. It was nothing I set out to do. I've kind of always had a helping hand in wanting to assist people, but this role actually came out after a burnout role, and I started volunteering, and that's how I got into disability. I was offered a job, and the more time I spent with people with disabilities, the more I was stepping out of my comfort zone, but also really enjoyed the interactions that I was having with these guys.
Yeah. I similar story there. I didn't choose the game chose me. The same as you. I I feel like a lot of people in this industry are like that. It's like, hang on, I think there's something about me. You think there's something about you that's drawn you in, and you want to help, which is why you're here, which is why you're still here. How long have you been in the disability support industry?
So I started back in 2011, just before NDIS came into the picture. And so part of that role was, in the end, determining what sort of funding people would get by looking at their primary disability, secondary disability. And then I moved out of the sector for a few years, and I've just come back into it, went into early intervention, and now across the lifespan. So yeah, obviously it drew me back in, and yeah, I love it.
Yep. You're not leaving. So now, could you share a little bit about your journey and how Unify Disability Services was founded?
Yeah, so my journey started as a teenager, really. I became a charity challenge entrant for Red Cross. So I raised money for Red Cross. I moved into Salvo store management. I did my diploma in counselling. I did buddy program for Paradise Kids, grief and loss. I worked in childcare, worked in the disability sector. I did a parenting program for children for 0 to 5 years. So that was called Starting Points. That was to help parents facilitate how to be a parent and how to overcome those challenges from 0 to 5. So there's something that's always been about me in leadership that I really love doing, and feeling like I'm helping people, like from not a top end, but not really in the thick of it, but just to help guide and support is probably my biggest thing. The Unify story is interesting. They started with a vision to be one-stop shop for disability services. We believe strongly in a place where staff can be part of a team that helps them grow, develop, and be in the best position to offer high-quality services to individuals within the community. It's a key message to advise participants that they're being cared for and supported by people who love their job, team, and believe in the Unify vision. There was a clear gap in the industry, a lack of training, and with Michael's psychology background, he was able to provide in-house training to the team to ensure that everyone had a solid foundation and understanding and knowledge of the disability sector.
Yep.
I think what's really good with Michael too, he's the owner of the company, is that he doesn't believe in a hierarchy. He believes in treating staff fairly, and that just creates an open space to share thoughts and ideas. And his mind is so insightful, and he speaks with wisdom and discernment that, yeah, it just allows you that freedom to be authentically you and be able to create those and provide those amazing services that we offer.
That's actually really, really quite interesting. I'm it hasn't been released yet, but my previous podcast that's recorded and will be released soon. So I guess when everybody hears this one, go back and look into our previous one. He was talking about the staff engagement and training within and helping the employees to know where they stand and be able to grow and with the business and know that they've got somewhere to go is going to be better for the clientele as well, because that's a happier staff. So it sounds like you've got that where you are.
Yeah. Look, as I say, it starts from the top. And, you know, if you've got a team and you've got a great team culture, then that's going to obviously make clinicians happy, and that's going to filter through participants. And that's what you want at the end of the day, because they need to be able to feel safe and secure and be able to have that rapport and trust within the business that they've gone with.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of things going on with this. So I know you do a lot of stuff with behavioural support services. So could you provide an overview of the psychology and behavioural support services that you offer?
Yeah, so we've got quite a big team, about to open the 3rd clinic in Melbourne. And we're about to open up the clinic in Robina. So we've got a team of 2 registered psychs, we have 4 team leaders, 8 provisional psychologists, and 16 behaviour support practitioners. So psychology and positive behaviour support is our niche, and that's what we do specialise in. We do offer community access as well, so that's something that we can do. We've got a team of over 70 in Melbourne already, big team of support workers in Melbourne. Here we're just sort of establishing that, but definitely psych and positive behaviour support is much needed. And I think a lot of people confuse the two and what they both represent. So, you know, we don't go into we're going to provide you psychology and positive behaviour support with the same practitioner, because then it becomes a bit of a conflict. So because they are separate things, we want to make sure that we're identifying which one is needed most, and we can provide a separate psychologist and a separate positive behaviour support practitioner, but we won't have the same person doing both of those services for the one participant. Ben, who runs the support working team, he's incredible himself. He has a wealth of knowledge and, you know, is big on making sure we've got some good processes and policies in place for the support workers, and is constantly checking in on them, constantly, you know, taking care of them. So I think that makes a big difference as well when you're reaching out to those support workers. How can we support you? What can we do to help? You know, that's just, and having such a large team, you know, sometimes that can get lost. But he's all over it, and just really admire what he does in the space as well.
And how long? So you're opening the Robina one. How long till that's open?
So settlement happens at the start of July. So we're hoping around August. Obviously, we're still active out in the community, and we do telehealth services.
Yep.
But we will have that clinic base as well.
Okay, cool. And that's very close. I had to look at the date then. I'm like, hey, July, that sounds really close. That's really close. Also, you mentioned a couple of your different roles in there. So for the people at home and for me, you said there's provisional psychs, your behavioural support specialists, and your and you said you've got 2 practicing psychologists. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the names there. How would you
Yeah,
just,
registered.
just so what would you say, like a rundown of what the different things in a nutshell, I guess, psych in a nutshell,
Yeah.
how would you explain that to somebody that's listening at home?
Yeah, okay. So your behavior support is basically designed to long-term supports with people with disabilities to understand and address their behaviors of concern, and they will quite often map out a plan to do that, just to try and change some of those, create some positive changes within their skill set and improve their behavior essentially. So the registered psychologists, and Michael's a registered psychologist as well, so I should say three. It's basically that they're conducting testing, research, mental states, perceptual processes, cognitive functions. So it's based on the human behavior as well, but it's more in-depth training and treats severe mental illness. The provisional psychologist is like a psychologist. It's just that they're in training. So it's kind of like when you're in the car and you've got your P plates. That's what the provisional is.
Okay.
So they should be all qualified as registered psychologists within a short period of time.
So they've passed all their tests, they know all of their stuff, and it's like anything, is getting that on the job experience, life experience, which you can't.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. And how would you say you tailor these services to meet the unique needs, which we know in this industry, a lot of the needs are unique, so of each client?
Yeah, look, obviously we understand that everybody is unique themselves. We're unique, you're unique, I'm unique. I have different needs to what you have. And so I think the biggest thing is really being able to hear and understand what someone's needs are. Too often people make assumptions and they don't fully understand what someone's needs are, particularly in the disability sector. I think people with disabilities know what they need. It's just how is that communicated? And I think if you can take that time to really hear what their needs are, then that can be achieved through various ways. And that it can be based on their age, it can be based on their cultural desires and needs. So it's just a matter of creating that safe space so that we can build the rapport and trust. Otherwise, therapies can't be effective. So it's just really individualized on each person.
Yeah, it's spending the time and listening, I guess, is my where I took from that, and that's what I find in what I do as well. It's the rapport is very important, making sure that the comfort level's there and that you can establish that trust. And once you've got,
100%.
you can move forward. Yeah.
And they're able to share, it's funny, you can get a referral come in and it can say one thing, but when you're actually talking to a participant, it's different to what the referral says. So it is quite crucial that you're actually hearing what they say, because then it can be adapted to what their needs are.
Yeah, I suppose if you come in with a referral saying this and you're like, okay, I know how to fix that. I'm not going to do this. We're going to go down this path. And the participants there going, but I want to go that way. What is this? And then you're going to listen and go, hang on, okay, we've got to adapt that. Which adapting is, I think, the biggest skill that I've had to improve since starting in this industry. There's so much to adapt to, so much to learn, so much to change.
100%.
That's just with me.
Yeah, well,
that's
me
not with the
too.
client.
But I think, they can come in and present these issues, and then as the conversation takes place, like obviously I'm not in the session, but from what my understanding is that they can display different symptoms and want to address different things. So they might say they might have alcohol abuse or something like that, but then as the conversation turns, suddenly they've got an issue with something else, and that trumps the alcohol. So it's just a matter of determining what's the priority and what's the need for that participant in order to proceed. So yeah.
So that big ball of twine, isn't it? You unravel it, and then you find out, oh, hang on, there's a knot here. If we undo that knot, is everything going to come apart, or is everything? Yeah. I don't know. I don't think my analogy was going quite where I wanted to then, but that's all right.
No, I know exactly where you're going back. So I understood perfectly.
But yeah, I imagine there's a lot of that, and some things, I guess, as you're going and looking at the problems that you're aware of, and the solutions that you're aware of, you may be finding some other things that may be catalysts, and things that you can get in and explore that and go, oh, hang on, here's something that we can make a broader improvement that can help other things as well. I've been lucky enough to see some of my clients that have had behavioural support and psych in their plans, and the differences and the changes, and all of the underground stuff, the stuff that we don't see going on. But for me, for what I do, the stuff that I get to see is the change in their demeanour, how they interact with others, those things, happiness. Like just seeing this, like, oh, okay, cool. They were here, and now they're coming in and they're here like most of the time. That's cool. That's those wins that potentially that little course direction, something that you guys are doing, could have in 10 or 20 years time. Like maybe you're not still seeing them, and maybe you don't get to see that. But knowing that little bit of a change, that nudge over now, and then down in the future, they could be a different human being. They could be living a more fulfilling life, and being open to more potential and possibilities. It's
Absolutely. And I don't think every clinician sees that that progress. I've worked with clinicians where they've said, oh, I'm not helping, I just feel stuck, like because they have those challenges as well. I'm not being effective for this person. But like you said, sometimes it's not presented until later on in years to come, or you might not see those changes because you're too close to it. So it's not until you sort of step away from it and they go, oh wow, actually there's a huge difference there.
Yeah.
So it's that human behavior. We don't always see that straight up, but yeah. It's exciting when you do see it though.
Yes. It's I think it's the wins. I mean, there's the negative sides and there's the plus sides. I like seeing the wins, the good things that are happening, and the guys that are able to get more out of the world because of the support that's out there and available, which then in turn makes us need to learn more so that we can help more, and which helps more so that we get anyway.
I mean, growth is a big thing, like that's a continual, you've got to be open to that growth, and like you said, you looking, researching, educating, talking to other people. That's how we grow, and that's how we find out new exciting things that are happening in the space, and then we can help others with that knowledge.
Exactly. What are some of the biggest challenges you face in providing disability support on whatever level, the support, the site?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of parts to that. I think being able to provide a service where it's too far out of your scope of travel, and that can be really frustrating because you want to be able to say yes to everybody. You want to be able to offer supports, particularly in those underserviced areas. That's a real frustration for me, especially when I see the need and there's no one covering those areas. So that's, it's disheartening and frustrating. I think the other aspect is from a support worker point of view that, there's a lot of challenges there. Support workers have a really tough job, and my hat goes off to them because I know it's not an easy role. And there's just so much diversity within that role that they're not always met. Like there's not enough skill-based training to offer people. And I think trying to find that right fit, because sometimes participants only need a few hours, where, you've got to try and find someone that's willing to work just a few hours, because most people want more hours. So it's the complexities too of matching participants up with support workers because, you know, they may not get along, they may have different personalities. And then when you do find a good fit, sometimes it's often broken because someone's leaving or circumstances have changed and the participant leaves the area. There's all those complexities. And I think there's never going to be a amazing system that covers all of those problematic areas. And I think there's just so much pressure on support workers that they often don't stay in the industry long because of those challenges that they have. And I think if anything can improve in there, then I'm all for that, because that's just such a challenge for them to, yeah, get all of everything encompassed. And even now, you know, they're asked to do injections or, you know, so many things that are outside their scope of practice.
Yeah.
That how do you qualify everyone to do all of those things? But then they might only need someone to take them out for the day. So it's like, do you invest all that training into somebody, but then they don't need that training, and then they lose that training because they're not utilizing that training? There's just all those little bits of pieces that just don't all marry up. And so I think that's a big challenge within the whole NDIS space, to be honest.
Yeah. There's a free plug for TAFE here. So the free TAFE has a lot of free TAFE stuff going on. Like I know one of the ones that I looked at, there was I mean, they've got nursing ones, and now I'm not going to become a nurse. That's a little bit much with what I'm already doing. But there is the course for at least some medications. I don't think it's about the injectable stuff. I could be wrong, but they've got there you go, TAFE.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Send us some people, Dave. We'll send you. I think it's a really good government initiative, putting out that free education for people to get them into the areas that they're needed, and that specifically what you just said is one of those areas that there is a requirement, and there is a lack of personnel. So you were saying before that one of the big challenges there is being able to access the remote or the people that aren't necessarily in your area or your is the telehealth something? Because you guys do offer telehealth.
Yeah, we do. I think with the psychology aspect, it depends on the person, individual, whether they are open to that, because not everybody responds well, particularly in the psychology space. I know OTs kind of have the same issues as well in speech. So if it works, then absolutely great to give it a try. I do recommend people give it a go. But yeah, it's definitely something I would like for everyone to be able to access services, particularly psychology, with the demand of mental health and all the issues that are going on that just keep growing and growing. You know, that there's such a need, and I can't move quick enough to get it all happening. And I'd love to be able to go, yep, we're going to do this, but realistically, like, how is that going to work? And, you know, there are ideas that we can work around that, maybe travel, get a clinician to travel once every few months and do a week there in those underserviced areas. So it's just working out the logistics of, well, who's going to be prepared to travel that far? They've got to take time away from their families. So it's just one of those tricky areas that, you know, you definitely see the need for it, particularly around Toowoomba and Ipswich are a big need here in Queensland. So just trying to look at, well, how can we service those areas, you know, where it's effective, essentially.
That's interesting. So I think of Toowoomba and Ipswich. Well, I think of them a little bit rural. They're big areas. So even though they're big areas, they're underserviced with those sort of professionals.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a lot of wait lists in the Ipswich area for the 6 weeks for psychology from other providers that come through. And the Toowoomba area is, yeah, from what my understanding, and I've heard from other providers, is that a lot of people just kind of, because it's so underserviced, a lot of people will use those services to get an assessment to keep their funding, but they don't use the services on a regular basis because they're not used to having those services available to them.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, I think that comes around education and accessibility, and making those people in those areas aware that there are some services out there and what can they do to access those services.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it. That's something that I've come across a lot, is people not knowing what's available for them, or if they
Mm.
know it's available, knowing what it can actually do. um, Knowing like, oh, hang on, I can get my son in to do this, and this will help him with these things, which can have that potential effect later on. I just thought it was that. It's getting that information out there, and I mean, how do you tell everybody everything? That's
Yeah, well,
it's,
exactly. And you're doing an amazing job by having these podcasts, because that's part of it, education. That's part of people learning and knowing what's out there. Yeah.
and that's the thing. If we, by doing this, we find one person that goes, oh my god, I didn't know that that's what behavioral support was.
Mm.
Okay, I just thought that was for naughty kids, or I just thought that was for this, I just thought that was, that's like, oh, hang on, these are the things that they can change. And that's where that can take them. These are all this is what I'm learning. I'm like, I didn't know what a behavioral support practitioner was. I didn't know it existed
Yeah.
before I met you, actually. And
Yeah.
is I'm like, oh, okay, what is that? What can that do? Who can that help? Do I have any clients that might need those things? Is there a benefit for them? Are they on that path, or if they go on that path, will that help them down here?
Yeah.
And I'm in this industry because everything is so diverse. There's so many things that are out there, and I guess we all get confused by the noise too. Um, you go
Yeah.
to you go to one of those expos, and it's amazing and it's cool, and there's so many different things that, but which one do you look at? Who do you spend the longest speaking to? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And you've got all the, like, there's social worker, there's a counselor, there's mental health nurse, and even within the PBS space, like, you've got your positive behavior support, which is based on restrictive practice, but then you've got your behavior support plan, which there's no restrictive practice in that. So when there's restrictive practice, then you have to go through NDIA to get all approval for that. But you can have a behavior plan without having the restricted practice. And I think that's where some confusion lies as well. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just presents, again, it comes around education and knowledge.
And for the people at home, so restrictive practice, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, restrictive practice is when you're putting something into place and it has to be in a plan. It can't just be done. You've got to have it. You've got to have psychs go ahead and agree and go, yes, this is something we need to do. Um, uh, my brain is going straight to the excessive points, but if you've got somebody that may be prone to self-harm, restricting their access to the knife drawer,
Yeah.
is that along the lines of what restrictive?
Yeah. Yep. Or it could be even medicating somebody that might affect how they generally operate. So that's, that can be a restrictive practice
Oh,
through medications. So there's a number of things that can be classed as restrictive practice. Medication is probably one of the biggest things, but yes, self-harm, the knife drawer, putting locks on that. Some people might go, well, this person's overweight, they need to lose weight, so we're going to put a lock on the fridge. Like, there's those types of restrictive practice, which isn't probably legal to lock the fridge,
yeah.
but you'd have to have a really good reason and explain to NDIA why you're going to put those measures in place to back that up.
So
Yeah.
that might be someone with like, is it Prader-Willi syndrome or something like that, where they're going to just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat until they've made themselves sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's all types of scenarios, and it's based on, you can't have that restrictive practice in place forever. You've got to be able to just, base it on like 6 months and use some proactive strategies to, make sure that you can ease off on those restrictive practices.
Okay, and that's where the behavior support comes in. You're looking at the psychology of it, you're understanding how the brain works, you're knowing, okay, well, this is something we need to remove this situation for now. And we're going to work on our step-by-step procedure to try and see what we can improve. And then we're going to assess, see what has improved or what is improving, and then move forward from there. Is that the...
Yeah, essentially that's a plan, is that, you're trying to understand where the behaviors are coming from, and by implementing the plan in place and implementing strategies to make sure that we try and reduce those behaviors, and that is, that obviously can't be an overnight fix. That's going to take some time and that's why the plans are longer than say a psychology visit. You want to be able to do it over a period of time.
Yeah, but and I understand that on my own level. On my relationship with my fridge has not changed overnight. I can tell you that.
Yeah, mine either. Yeah, I'm with you there.
And so that all boils down to dignity of risk too. So that's we're not able to just take these things away from these guys, and I've got to change the behavior. My son, I give him a smack on the bum and tell him he's not allowed to play for his PlayStation for a week because he's in trouble. I don't have a son. I don't smack anyone's bum, by the way. But like as a concept. Whereas someone with a disability, it's in the doctrine, they have the right to make those mistakes, to be able to live as a human, like we all do. We all have the right to make mistakes, and though sometimes you've got to come in and put in that restrictive practice because it trumps in that situation
it's typically damaging to them or to other people, and that's why you want to put in that restrictive practice so that there's no harm in that. So that's the basic part of it.
Cool. Thank you. I like to ask questions.
Love you asking questions.
So going with that, so we're going so make it a little bit lighter. Could you share some success stories that highlights the impact of your services on clients' lives? Everybody loves success.
Yeah, look, it's well, the highlights for me, like I can give examples where, I've driven someone to the psych ward that's planned to kill their husband and child. I've had parents on suicide watch. I've seen mums break down because they're just at the end of their rope. They have nowhere else they feel they can turn to. They're just pushed to their absolute limits. They're exhausted. And it will be nice to say, yes, I help all those families, and I do help those families. But I think what's more rewarding for me is little moments, because that's the job that I do, and I help people and I support them wherever it's needed. But for me, the highlights is when you can see gratitude in someone's eyes, or you can see a smile because they're so appreciative of what you've done. One of my best highlights was a couple of children. One was nonverbal, AC3, and it took him about a year to realize that I was there, even though he saw me every week for a year. But one day I was on the phone to somebody and talking to them, and he'd come out of therapy and he had shaving foam all over his hands, and he was dressed in Spider-Man. Now, he came up to me like he was going to put all this shaving foam on my face. And what was great about that, people probably think, why is that great? But what was great about that is that it showed me he trusted me. Suddenly he came up to me. It took him that long to be able to. Every other time he walked past me, didn't acknowledge, didn't do anything. But this was like a breakthrough moment, and you could see that, wow, he trusts me enough to feel that he can come and do that. the same, another little girl who, you know, would always like look, every time she'd walk past me, she'd give me the absolute dirtiest look. Like, you know, what are you doing? Don't look at me. Don't be anywhere near me. Avoid me like the plague. After about the same kind of time frame, about a year, um, I wasn't there one day. And this was a girl that came 3 times a week into the clinic, and I wasn't there one day, and she wondered where I was. So she asked someone where I was. The next time I saw her, she then became like my best friend. She would come and she'd take my jewelry off and she'd put my jewelry on and she'd look in the top drawer, or I'd get to look after her baby doll while she was in therapy. And for me, it's those moments where you kind of see, okay, they trust me. I'm good, you know, like it's just those little moments of acknowledgement, and you see that little breakthrough, or you get that smile, or you know, in a previous role, I helped someone. Maybe you might need to edit this out. It was a prostitute who pimp was waiting outside, and she just showed me this absolute gratitude because I let her have 5 minutes of eating a tin of tuna in the dressing room to
Oh,
change clothes. And it's really sad, but she just, the gratitude in her eyes, just for me, it's those moments. And it's like life. We have moments in life where, you know, we think more when we think of our memory, those things that matter to us
yeah.
and what fills our cups and makes us passionate and do what we do. And those are the moments that trump everything else to me. You know, so it's not just necessarily one highlight, it's a mixture of those moments. Even now, if I feel like someone's on the phone and they're distraught, or you've got a mum crying on the phone, like I can be the calm to their storm. And I think that in itself has a lot of power, just to be able to hear someone acknowledge them and they feel they're being seen and heard.
Mm,
And, you know, I can't fix anything for them. I can't change their circumstances, but what I can do is show grace and kindness. And I think when you do that and give someone time, that's what makes everything seem okay in the world.
yeah. Yeah, it's those little things. I guess that calm in the storm thing is I've got someone to reach out to that they know's there. They can like thank you for being there. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, yeah. There's I talk to a lot of the mums and dads, mainly the mums, it seems, of these clients, probably because girls are more talkative. um, and or even not of clients, just over the years, actually, when I think about it, especially in the gym, there's a lot of the mums would come in because that was their time. They could put the rule in place. No, I'm going to the gym. This is when I get to deload, I guess, and load. But yeah, there's the amount of things that go on, and the amount of needs, and the things that the behavioural situations, and how do you deal with that if you don't know that a behaviour support exists, or and how. So actually, on that, so how some clients are very specific in their plans, in what they do, and in their habits, and they've formed their habits, and when it's mentioned to them or they're advised, whatever, that a new support is coming into place, so something like a psych or a behavior support, do you have like a rampant program, or a way that you can lead in a participant? And I'm thinking on the younger edge, where mum and dad still say this is what's happening, lead them into that comfort level of coming in and getting that help. Because first it's like, no, this is a person I don't know, you're not going to help me, I don't want you to do so. So did that question make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Look, Mel, our wonderful clinician here in Queensland, she has actually had a participant that did not want therapy at all. But she's really good with the way that she handles those situations, and can, you know, come in and go, okay, if you don't want to see me, you don't have to see me, but let's just get through today. or let's do a shorter session. Like, there are strategies that she can use
Yeah.
to put in place until you get to that comfort level of, okay, this isn't so scary after all.
Yeah.
And I think she does that really well. And I think other clinicians do that really well. It's just like we've said before, that rapport. And I used to say to clinicians as well, if particularly in relation to children, if a child wants to sit under the table for the whole session, let them. Like, if you break that rapport, you've got nothing. They don't want to come back to you. You've got to create that rapport. Is the first thing that you can ever do to anyone, because you know yourself, if I went to a psychologist and I've got someone that's the psychologist is in a beautiful, suit that's really expensive, and they're sitting across from the table, I'm going to think they're not going to relate to me at all. Like,
Yeah.
how on earth are they going to understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
In their big fancy clothes and and some of them are good, but you have to be able to build that rapport to find that out, because first impressions count for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and people with disabilities are no different to them.
I'm just sorry. My mind. I was just thinking about this kid coming away from the psych, going, "That's the best place ever. I get to sit under the table." You're just like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to go back now."
Well, it's like people in wheelchairs as well. You have to be able to get down to their level to be able to communicate. Otherwise, it looks like you're towering over them and you're being authoritarian. You don't want to do that. You want to meet people where they're at.
Actually, yeah, that was something someone said that to me earlier, and I'm like, that makes sense. I wouldn't like to be like that to everybody that I ever meet, and having that, because it changes the way that you're feeling, doesn't it? Being in different positions.
Yeah, yeah.
The word behavior, or behavior support, but the words behaviors, I know brings certain connotations to your mind. You're like, oh, that's only for behaviors of whatever. That's just the really, really bad negative stuff. But there's a lot of guys and girls with disabilities that may have to pay behaviors that maybe mum and dad aren't aware, or don't look at them as behaviors. That's just one of my son or daughter's things. Whereas those behaviors may be something that's getting in the way of them getting the other things they need, or it's a manifestation of what's going on inside, and it's something that is showing that they might need some other support, if that's making sense for them. So
Yeah.
what would be a way for mums and dads to be able to see and notice, like, oh, hang on, my son running and hiding, my daughter running away every Tuesday? How would they identify?
Yeah, I guess it depends if that's the norm for them. I think, all types of behaviors communication, right? So you're looking at behaviors are generally an unmet need. So when you're looking at where the behavior is coming from, what need is that person trying to get? Is it can be like from it can be the environment space that they're in, it could be something, it's generally a need that's not met. So what is that need that they need to be met? Is this on a regular basis? How frequently is this happening? Like, is this different to how they've been before? Is this a new behavior? What's triggered this behavior? And when you look a bit deeper into where this stems from, or I can't remember ever not feeling this way, this behaviour's been for as long as I can remember, well, then maybe it's time for a GP visit to discuss that behaviour. But if it's a new behaviour, I'd be looking at the external factors, like what's going on for that person, and what is potentially that unmet need, because we all behave to try and communicate. And that's typically where behaviour and communication comes into play, particularly for someone that's nonverbal. They don't have any other way to communicate other than through behaviour. So when you're trying to determine what that unmet need, once you find out what that is, then you can start addressing the behaviour, because you can try and meet that need in some capacity. But if
So
the behaviour is always there, then that would probably go, okay, maybe there's an area of concern here. Let's go to the GP as a starting point and go from there.
okay, and so going to the GP is going to give the referral to a behaviour support.
Yeah, so the GP can, well, the GP can put in some recommendations, or it might be a health issue that's going on. You don't know, but GPs generally your starting point, or they may be able to write up a CDM plan, which is the chronic disease management plan, where behaviours probably lasted 6 months, and then they can have like maybe 2 OT sessions, 3 psychology sessions, or they can have up to 5 sessions in one area, and then they can see the allied health professional and try and do some assessments in that 5 session visits to determine what's going on. And then you can start to explore those avenues. Do we need to apply for NDIS funding? Is this something that's short term? We can look at those areas and get more expertise put in to determine what's really going on.
Okay. And that's the if you wonder, ask. Is basically what that's down to. If you don't know, go to a professional and seek their advice. They're going to be like, hey, it's nothing to worry about. Go home and watch TV. Or they're like, oh, hang on, this is something you might want to investigate. And geez, lucky it came to us now, because we can put some supports in place. Maybe you are eligible for NDIS funding. Maybe there is some things you can do that are going to make life better in the future.
Absolutely. And I think early intervention is key. The sooner you get on top of that. But I think, even GPs sometimes get it wrong. So I think if you trust your gut and you've got a gut feeling that there's something more going on, go see another one. It doesn't hurt to get a couple of opinions, because GPs can overlook things as well. We're all human. We all make those mistakes. So.
And I imagine a general practitioner, the scope of things they need to know about is very vast.
Well, they're not experts. They're not experts in this industry, They're experts in what they do, and that's why we need other people, and that's why we need to collaborate with other providers, because I'm not an expert in what you do. I could pretend that I know, but I wouldn't know. I'd probably break a bone or, do some serious injury if I pretended to know what you know.
Talk to Vickie later on, make sure she's safe in the gym. Okay, noted. Yep. What are your future goals for Unify Disability Services?
Yeah, so our goal's always been within a 5-year span to have about 3 clinics here in Queensland.
3 in Queensland?
Yeah. So looking at other areas, that might happen sooner, but that's kind of the vision. We also have a sister company that's called Psychly. Now, Psychly works in the psychology space still, but it offers that's not NDIS. So Unify, when you think of Unify, is strictly NDIS.
Yep.
When we look at Psychly, it's mental health care plans. Yep. It's traffic accidents and work cover. So that's another sister arm that we're doing as well. So it's again broadening that scope to try and give services and make services accessible to all people, all ages. So when we're looking at that, I would love to also service more underserviced areas, make that accessible. And I think families have such a hard time navigating everything, particularly in NDIS space. It's hard to do all their research. It's hard to do that. So if I can make someone's life easier by making it as simple as possible, then I feel like that's a win for somebody.
We like
so
easy.
I will continue. Sorry?
We like easy, don't we? We like things. We do. Low barrier to entry.
Well, there's so many complicated forms and systems, and then people, because they've got to wrap their head and try and organise services for children or for themselves, depending on what age bracket we're talking about, that there's so much, I've been in NDIS for a number of years now, but just when I think I've got it understood, I don't. Something else comes up. And so I can only imagine how hard it is to navigate that as a parent that's got some children with disabilities. How do they know who's the right provider? They hear horror stories, they hear good things, like it's such a messy space, really.
Yeah.
So, and this is where I would say to any family, do your research, make sure that the company that you're going to go for is completely transparent and that you can trust them and that they've got your best interest.
Could you give
Sorry
to interrupt you. Could you give some tips, maybe ways that a parent, what would a parent look for, or what would be a red flag and a green flag sort of thing?
Well, I think if and that's a really good question. One I haven't given too much
It's a
thought
hard question.
of
Sorry.
Thanks, Jace. Put me on the spot there. No, I think, well, I think if someone's going to be completely honest with you and transparent is number one.
Yep.
Like if you make a call, and say someone's making a call to me and I pick up the phone and I'm saying, oh, look, we can't help you with this, but this is a way we can help you. Or if I'm being completely honest and transparent in what we can offer and what we can't, if it feels sales pitchy, it's probably too sales pitchy.
Yeah.
Like I think again, it comes down to your gut feel about someone, and again, it's part of that rapport building process, because if a parent is calling and they don't feel it from you, then they're not going to come, move services to you. I'd say to parents also, don't rush the process. It's so easy to just be able to, just go with them. They've got availability, but
especially especially if you're in Ipswich or Toowoomba and you're like, no one has it, I'm going to go with these guys that have got availability. Maybe it's worth it.
We'll just go with them for now. But as new changes come into NDIS and participants have to make more their own choice, and it's harder for them to change those choices, I think it's really important that they try and make the right fit for them as early on as they can, and to determine what's going to suit their needs. It's not about the provider's needs. And I think when you get to that, like if you Google NDIS providers, you're going to come up with a million different providers and it's not all up to date. So I would tell them steer away from that avenue, because it's going to lead them up the garden path and they're not going to know what to do. They're going to feel overwhelmed. Typically word of mouth is good. Educate yourself. I guess that's probably the best way to do that is reach out to those people that kind of seem authentic and genuine in their delivery, because that's what you want.
Yes. And if you've got your sister's friend who said, hey, look, these people were really good to me, they steered me the right way, you go to them and you say, hey, and they're like, hey, look, we might have been really perfect help for your sister's friend. We might not have exactly what you need, but we know these people. Then you're like, well, hang on, I know they've steered them the right way, and they're not just going, oh, give me your money. They're giving you the truth. And then they're not going to make themselves look bad by referring you on to another company as well. So you probably, I like that word of mouth thing for those.
Yeah. And I think for me personally, that's why I educate myself on different providers, and I get a sense for trying to meet them and ask them the why they got into the sector. And I think that's a really good question for parents or people with disabilities trying to find services. Ask them that question. How did they get into the sector? Because I think when I've asked that question to other providers, sometimes I get a very blah response and it's very professional, and I want to hear the heart of the reason why someone's in the sector, because if you've got the heart, they've got the passion, and if they've got the passion, they're going to go above and beyond for you and support whatever your needs are. And I think that's so important. But how do parents get that information that we get? And again, I think it's just the word of mouth, because if I'm talking to you, I know you're a good guy. So if I know someone needs your services, I'm going to reach out. Hey, Jace, I've got this person for you.
I try. But yeah, that's the thing. That's why I like the networking events, is you can go in because if I'm going to refer someone and say, hey, my client comes and is like, hey, Jace, I'm new to this all. Apparently, I need one of these and three of them. Where do I go? Hang on, look, if you go to these guys or these guys, I've met them. I know they're good people. I believe that they're probably going to be a good help for you, or can steer you in the right direction. Then you can go there. At least it knocks down like the Google search.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But even, to allow for choice and control, I can say to people, look, I'll give you three options. You make that decision for choice and control. But I know these people, these are great. They're going to look after you. Or I know these people, I don't think they have capacity, or I've never met these people, but here's an option for you. And I think that's the transparency of, at the end of the day, it's your decision, but I'm also going to recommend who I've worked with or who I've spoken with, and I know their ethics and their values and beliefs, and they align with what I want to do as well. Because at the end of the day, that's what serves our reputation as well, is, if we're providing good service and we're recommending other people who also provide a good service, then that's going to reflect on our business and who we are as people as well.
Exactly. And despite what the news and the media says, there's a lot of really good people in this industry. I think the spotlight is shone. That's going to get edited. Is shone on the on the negative ones, because that sells newspapers, and that makes sense. And there is the bad ones are bad. But there's loads of really good people that got in here for really good reasons. Even and I think it gets missed, but a lot of people that are new to the industry too are still good people in here for the right reasons.
I've definitely met more amazing providers than non-amazing providers. And they do get a bad rap, and and it's a shame, because you see so many passionate people in the industry, and people offering free services for those that are in dire need, and will fight tooth and nail to try and get them the funding requirements they need or supports that they need. And I think we're in that same category, that we will go above and beyond for people, because we have that heart and that passion for it.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be. It's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on, but the majority is all happiness and help, which is great. It's the things you don't know until you hear about them, and it's like, of course, like somebody in a car crash, that's a trauma, and they might not know that that's actually going to have, like, the people coming back from war, and that they've got the PTSD. People are like, oh, that happens to people in war, but having that car crash, that's a trauma. That's a physical. It's a physical scar in the brain that they may or may not need help from, but they may need help from. That's probably something. I mean, I don't know it, so I guess at least one other person out there possibly doesn't know that.
Well, it's not just that, but it's also people can become disabled from that accident, and so they might be an amputee, they might have a permanent brain injury. So that affects you psychologically as well. So, when we're talking psychology, it's not necessarily just the mental health, but it's also the physical aspect as well. And, the permanency that can come from an accident, or the recovery, or like you said, the trauma. It can be a number of things that are covered. And it's like, who can these people go to get that assistance to be able to get over that?
Because that's a change. Yeah, like 30 years old, this is how life's always been, and then bam, it's now different, completely different. That's the thing. Wow. It's And actually, when you said that, on my brain's like, yeah, actually, that was the obvious go-to of car accident and needing assistance. um,
But, you are right. It does affect people trauma-wise, and, it's that stuff inside that you don't always see from the outside looking in, and that's typically what can, when someone's an amputee or, they've got a physical impairment, like it's such an obvious kind of thing, but people don't know what's really going on the inside for people, and, you might be triggered with another car going past, or and that can just set you off for the whole day, or you can have anxiety, you can have so many issues relating to that one accident that people don't see, and then you try and cover it up to be normal. You try and go ahead and do everything else the day to day, and sometimes it's not even until a couple of years later that you go, actually, I'm still traumatized by that. And so in a couple of years' time, then you can still access services through them to get the psychological help that you need.
and how do you, is that through the insurance, or is that, or you just go to
Yeah,
the
well, generally, we get a couple of referrals from lawyers, so injury lawyers.
Yep.
But generally, GP can write your mental health care plan. So it can, that can also be from a work cover or traffic accident point of view. So at the moment, we have TAC, which is a Victorian thing. So say you're in Queensland and you're traveled to Victoria and you have a car accident in Victoria, you
Yep.
can still use that as services in Queensland because you can still access psychology. We've also registered with NISC as well. So NISC is the Queensland equivalent to traffic accidents in Victoria. So we're just getting them on board as well. So there's a lot that I didn't know in this space, and I'm still learning. But it's really exciting that we can offer services to so many people and broaden our reach.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. We don't know, we don't know the amount of things, even outside the disability, obviously also outside the disability sector. There are things that are available for all of us. We live in a beautiful country. Like, there's a lot of things out there that's for us that we can have, that if situations happen, there's support. There's always something out there. It's always worth a Google, always worth talking to somebody that can help. If it is something to do with the body or the brain, going to the GP and seeing what they know and who they can refer you to, and see if there's something out there that is available. We've got a lot of support in this country, I think.
Yeah, and I think asking those questions, I like to ask a lot of questions like you do. But even one thing that was really shed light to me is that people in prisons go through autism assessments while they're in prison, and then they can come out of prison on NDIS. So, perhaps that's been a behavior as to why they're in prison, but then they need that support when they come out of prison. So that's a whole nother space. I didn't realize all that happened.
And
And
that can
it's just, yeah.
help curb them from going back in. They're like, hang on, I'm not actually a criminal. This is happening and that's happening. This is my reactions to it. Maybe there's some things that I can put into place to stop doing that. And yeah, wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
there's a lot in this space, and I'm learning stuff every day and continuing to grow, and that's just incredible that there are providers out there that are educating and supporting people that we potentially may not be able to reach because we haven't known about it.
Yeah. Any advice? Just any random advice. What are things, like, you've been in this industry for a long time. What are a few pearls of wisdom you would like to share that for parents, for people with disabilities, for whoever's listening?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. My pearls of wisdom. I think, I'm very big on gratitude. Always look for the grateful in every situation. And then when you're in that state of gratitude, your cortisol levels reduce, your potential. You can't be angry and have gratitude at the same time. It doesn't work.
That would be
So
confusing.
yeah, it's just a state of mind. You just can't make it happen. But for any families, try and go for services that don't promise the world, but can promise you that, you know, they're going to look after you. Make sure that their kindness, grace, it all comes down to the basic, you know, make sure that their companies are transparent, make sure that there's great communication. I'm massive on communication. I have a 24-hour response time. If someone emails me, I will give them an answer within 24 hours. As
You
to
are actually really
anything.
good with your emails. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Jace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, even if it's bad news and you're putting off saying to someone, oh no, we can't do this anymore, or a clinician's left or whatever, I think as long as you are open with families and communicate that, and like I said, transparency, then most people are okay with that and accepting of that. It's when you start hiding things from families that's when it becomes undone and you've lost that trust. So
Yeah.
I think if any families that are out there are thinking, oh, I'm unsure, try and find some more supporting documentation as to are they usually your gut instincts right, and just, yeah, make sure that if someone seems too busy or they don't respond in a timely way, I don't tend to go with those people myself,
Yeah.
because I think if you don't have the time to give me, then why would I want to come to you for services?
Yeah.
If you know, like, that's just the coming even from a retail world, it's like, you know, you've got, as they used to say, they don't say it anymore, I don't think, the customer's always right. And you've got
They
to
need
give
to
them
say
that
that
time.
more. They need to say that. Talking too
When
fast
you
for your
go
children.
shopping. Yeah. But I think just having that mentality of kindness and yeah, ask questions. You know, that's a big thing, because if you ask questions, you don't know what you don't know. And you need to be educated, and we need to be more educated as providers, and we need to try and make everything as seamless as possible. There's, there's a lot of things that can happen internally that make everything work. And, you know, if it's seamless, then it's probably a good organization. If they make it easy for you, because at the end of the day, us providers should be doing the work for the participants.
Yeah.
We should be making it easy for them. We know the challenges that they have,
Yeah.
you know, and it's not rocket science. It's just purely, you know, we want them to come to us because we want to provide a good service. And if we're not doing that background work and we're not making it easy for them, why would they come to us? Why should they come to us?
Yeah.
You know?
And we've done it. We've done it before. We've done something similar before, very close, where they've maybe only done it that once. That's it. All they know is that one time. We do it over and over and over again. We should not only be making it easier, but we should be able to make it easier.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've interrupted your pearls of wisdom there. But you were saying earlier about the cortisol with and the gratitude. So in a situation, so mum's at home, it's hitting the fan, Meltdown City, all of these things are going on. So taking that time to step back and going, you know what? At least this is happening indoors, or at least the roof's protecting us from the rain today, or whatever. So having that back can actually help to bring the stress down to potentially work through.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to reduce cortisol levels, and that's generally through a breathing technique. And it's kind of like breathing in about 5 counts and then doing a big blowout for about 7 counts. If you do that about 5 to 7 times, you're naturally going to reduce your cortisol levels. I'm not going to do a demo because I'm not going to look pretty while I'm doing it.
Sorry, I was just doing that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a video. Whoops.
But there are other breathing techniques as well. There's breathing through closing one nostril, breathing through in, and then breathing out the other nostril. And when you're doing that, you're actually releasing oxygen into your brain. And if you do that a few times, you'll naturally reinvigorate yourself, but you'll also naturally calm your state. And the same happens when you're sleeping. So if you're sleeping on your right side, you're instantly going to block your left nostril. So you might have trouble sleeping on your right side because the right nostril is going to invigorate your brain and stimulate. Whereas if you're sleeping on your left side, it's naturally a calmer state to be in, and you're likely to go to sleep better. But I think the gratitude experience, I love Byron Katie. She's a cognitive behavior therapist, and she does ask questions like, especially if you're angry with someone at the time, is it true? And then you go, yeah, that person was really annoying. And you go, well, where's the evidence? And when you're asking yourself, where's the evidence? You've got to seriously think, well, I don't know if I actually have any. Where's the evidence? Oh, that was just so mean to me or whatever. But when you think about, who am I without the thought? Well, who am I with the thought? Well, I'm probably angry and I'm hurt if I'm thinking those things, that this person doesn't care. But if I take away the thought, well, I'm just going about what I'm normally doing. And then it's like changing that back and going, well, actually, I'm going to be grateful because that actually did give me time to hear what I had to say, or they did something else. When you look for those gratitude moments and, you turn those negative thoughts around, your brain suddenly shifts and you're not in that state of passive aggressive or angry or anything else. You just can be grateful. And when you're in that state of gratitude and your mind shifts, then you're a lot calmer and you're more able to do things in a perspective way, because sometimes we are too close to things and everything can just climb on top of us, one after the other, after the other, after the other. But when we shift that mindset and we can look for things to be grateful for, suddenly those things unpack a little bit more. And when we're in those states as well, we can question it and go, why is this still bothering me? Why, in a couple of hours, in a couple of days, why is this still on my mind? And when you go to that space, you can challenge those thoughts and go, oh, I'm feeling really upset about something. What is it that I'm upset about? And how can I change that? Let me unpack it. And when you understand the feeling as to why you're feeling some way, then you're able to identify the issue and then perhaps change the issue.
Yeah, okay.
And this is one of those tangents we were talking about. That I think I can get a bit passionate about this and can talk ages on, that space on how, when we're changing and thinking, unpacking our questions about why we do what we do and why is it that we're feeling this way? What can we do about it?
Yeah. Yeah, well. I mean, I find brains fascinating. I find the way we think, why we think, why do we do this. I find it really interesting. I think most people, our understanding of psychology is CSI and memes. And we're lucky. There's a lot of really good memes that make us think about stuff out there now. But most people, they don't really have any reason to delve any deeper unless they might have gone off and found a counselor or found a psych to do something like, whoa, that was profound, that helped. Talking about tangents, as you were saying that, and I'm like, that's why guys buy girls flowers. Like, here's something to be grateful for. You can forget about my pants on the floor now. All right.
Yeah, actually, that would work for me.
She's like, hey, something to be grateful for. There we are. All right. Once we get thousands of followers, a whole heap of girls are going to start getting flowers now after watching.
Yeah, definitely. Look, and I think that's what's great about the psychology space that I'm in, is because I learn from the psychologists that we have on the team as well, like in the way that talk to people, in the way that they approach things. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely learning more too, which, I'm open to that learning. And even in those challenging times, I'm like, can't I just be in the comfort zone? Why do I need to step out of the comfort zone?
Yeah, right.
And,
It's so we have a comfort zone. We do it. We have to do it. It's so we have a comfort zone. If
Yeah.
we don't know what's uncomfortable, we will never be comfortable. We need
Yes.
that little, not much of it, just enough, just as minimal as possible, so that we can be grateful,
Yeah.
as you said, for the comfortable times. It's
But it's learning about yourself in that as well. When you're throwing those challenges, it's like, how am I responding? What can I do better? How can I approach this in a different way? And I think that's what helps us all, is being able to have that understanding of how our own brain works, and have that level of self-awareness that we can improve.
and that's why we're like, yes. There was about 5,000 tangents just going through my brain. I'm like, I'll nip that.
I know.
Bring us to the end of today's episode, unless, Vicky, you've got anything else that you want to say, anything that I forgot to ask you?
I don't think anything that you forgot to ask me, but I do, highly recommend anyone that comes to you. You're a great guy. I love your authenticity, and I love the heart that you have and the stories that you shared too, because it's people like you that make the sector a great space to be in. And we offer different things, and it's great that we can share those differences, and whatever they are, and come together and have the one goal in mind, is that we want the best outcome for any participant that comes to us. And how do we do that? And it's through the questions, it's through this kind of thing that you're doing now, through podcast, education, knowledge. It's all power, and that's what gives big results. I think someone said the other day, we may not be able to change the world, but we can change the world for one person. And I think that's really beautiful. I think that one of our team members actually said that. So yeah, I'm going to steal that from her and use that, because it's so true that, quite often we look at that big picture and we're overwhelmed. Oh, we can't make such a difference to someone. But even if we make a little bit of a difference to someone's life, then I think it's all worth it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me.
No problems. Thank you. I'm like, next time I'm like, something is going wrong, I'm like, gratitude. That's right. There's the flowers that Vicky gave my brain. That will bring us to the end of today's episode of Vicarious Insights. Learn with me. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Vickie from Unify Disability Services for joining us and sharing valuable insights and experiences. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can find us on all of the big ones, Spotify, Apple, it's on YouTube, it's on my website as well. I'll leave some links below. Please leave us a rating and review. Any feedback or comments, things you want to ask me, Vickie, things that you want to say, let us know. The more that we get, then might give us reasons to bring Vickie back, or to if you've got time. Or but also I forgot to ask, what is the best way to contact you or Unify, Vickie?
Best way is through the website, or they can email me at vickie.berzins@unifydisability.com.au. That's a long mouthful.
Yep.
Otherwise, they can reach out through the Unify Facebook page.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm now monitoring that, so I can see that. So yeah, or through LinkedIn. Yeah, Facebook or the website, probably the easiest ones to remember.
Well, I will put links there. So we've got your LinkedIn, Facebook, website, and your email. So remember, at Vicarious Web Insights, we are all about learning and growing together. So if you have any questions, topics you'd like us to cover, or guests you'd love to hear from, feel free to reach out. I'll have some links to my stuff in there. So thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, keep learning, stay inspired, and let's continue to make a positive impact together.
Awesome. Thanks, Jace.
Thanks, Vickie.